Hi, welcome back to the course Data Science by Route Fabric. And today, let us look at what data is. There are two types of data, quantitative data and qualitative data. In quantitative data, we have ordinal data, interval data, and ratio data. Ordinal data is the data that can be arranged in order or rank. This can be grades, ranks, first and second place, or any kind of placeholders. Next, we have the interval data. Interval data is the data which established from a range of values. This can be temperature, speedometer, or like Celsius and Fahrenheit. Next, we have ratio. Ratio data is a numeric data such as height, weight, and age. Next up, we have qualitative data, or else categorical data. Qualitative data is also split up into two types, nominal and ordinal. As we already discussed, ordinal is the data that can be arranged in order or rank, and nominal data is categorized using names and labels. These are usually first names, secondary names, last names, company names, and etc. Next up, let us see what are the different types of data sets. We have population data. This is the data that is from every individual of interest from the target problem. And if you take a sample from this data, it is called sample data, which is data from only some of the individuals of interest from the target problem. Next up, we have population parameters. Population parameter is similar to population data. It is a numerical measure that describes an aspect of the population. Next up, like sample data, we have sample parameter. It is a numerical measure that describes an aspect of the sample and not the population. Now let us see how are the different means to do data analysis. We have the central tendencies, which are mean, median, and mode, and we have measure of spread, which is standard deviation, interquartile range, and correlation factor. First, let us see what mean is. Mean of a dataset is found by adding all the numbers in the dataset and dividing by number of values. One thing to note about mean is that mean can be affected by outliers. If there's an example dataset which goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, and there is 1000 and 2000 at the end, the mean of the dataset is going to be affected because of the outliers, which are 1000 and 2000. Next up, let us see what median is. Median is the middle value in a dataset when arranged in ascending order or descending order of magnitude. For example, in the dataset 1, 3, 4, 5, 9, 13, 20, the median is 5. Median can sometimes be used instead of mean when there are too many outliers, because in the problem where we said dataset where we said 1, 2, 3, 4, 1000, 2000, the mean is actually 4 because it's the middle value, and it's not being affected by the outliers 1000 and 2000. Next up, it is mode. Mode in a dataset is the highest occurring value in the dataset. In the example dataset, we have 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 5, 7, 2. 2 seems to be occurring the most 5 times, and that's why it's the mode of the dataset. Mode is very useful when dealing with multiple categorical variables because you can find the mode and see which of the labels are being repeated multiple times in the dataset. Next up, in measure of spread, we have standard deviation. Standard deviation, also known as SD, is used to express the spread of the data when mean is used to express the center. Thus, it is used when the distribution of data is symmetric and there is no outliers. To find the standard deviation, first we need to compute the variance. The variance is how far the data is spread out from the mean, which means how far from the center is the last value standing. That's why we should never use standard deviation when there are too many outliers. And to find the standard deviation, we take the square root of the variance. Next up is interquartile range. In case we have too many outliers, interquartile range is a really good measure of spread because it uses the median to express the center instead of the mean. The percentiles in interquartile range are divided into 100 groups. The median is the 50th percentile, which divides the data into 2 equal parts, and the 25th percentile is the median of the lower half of the data, which is below the median, and this is called first quartile or Q1. The other half, which is the 170, which is the 75th percentile, is the median of the upper half of the data, which is above the median, and it's called the third quartile or Q3. To find the interquartile range, all you gotta do is take Q3 minus Q1. Lastly, in measure of spread, we have correlation. Correlation checks for the relationship between two variables. It can be two order pairs like x and y and how they interact with each other. In the picture, we can see the different types of correlation. In a negative linear correlation, as x increases, y decreases. This means it has a negative correlation where x increases and y goes down. Whereas in a positive linear correlation, as x increases, y also increases. And then we have a normal correlation graph, which is basically a scatter plot where even though x is increasing, y has no impact, or x is not creating any impact on y. Lastly, we have nonlinear correlation, in which we have a power or a multiplier effect on the correlations. In correlations, usually we denote x as to be the independent or explanatory variable and y to be the dependent variable, because as x increases, y is depending on how x is increasing, so it can change. Okay, next up we have variables. Variables in data science are split into two parts: independent variables, which are the x values, and dependent variables, which are your y values. I hope this was informative. To learn more about data science, please visit robfabric.com. Thank you.